Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking the tale of two Bears games, wrapping up the Cubs season, and for my friend Gary, taking some shots at the White Sox ownership. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. The season is here. It is upon us. So don't miss out. Head on over to icehogs.com. Get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Also, make sure you check out the Hot Mic app. It is a awesome new app. You can, if you're tired of listening to the NFL broadcast as is on the television, the announcers that they give you, you don't have to listen to them anymore. And you don't have to try to listen to your radio be out of sync with your television. You download the Hot Mic app, and you can listen to the Swerski Sports crew talking the Bears live during the game, synced to your television. Head on over to Hot Mic on the iTunes App Store, and when you get prompted for the code, because it's still in the beta testing, is either use one of our codes, either capital HOP 23 or capital PATT 23, and join in the fun. We will be broadcasting the next Bears game live against the Saints, so make sure you check that out. Alex, what the hell happened today?
A lot of bad. They were outcoached. They were outplayed. They were outsmarted. Everything.
I mean, so we didn't have a show last week because we were doing the broadcast for the Bears Vikings game. So we didn't talk about that. And in that game, they came out on a team that all the experts were picking the Vikings to beat the Bears. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone expected the Vikings to do to the Bears what the Raiders did to the Bears today. And that was come out and dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Their defensive line dominate the Bears' offensive line, and their offensive line dominate the Bears' defensive line. And that's really what people thought was going to happen in the Vikings game. And it didn't. The Bears came out and manhandled the Vikings offense, shut down the run of the number one running back in the NFL, and the offense was able to do enough to win. In this game, the lowly Raiders defensive line, who is one of the worst at getting pressure to the quarterback, absolutely dominated the Bears offensive line, out-physicaled them at every level, and it showed. They were ready to play, and the Bears offensive line is not what we thought it was.
Can I just get my hot take? Since we're on the topic of offensive line, should I just get my hot take out right now?
Go with it.
I think Kyle Long's time with the Chicago Bears has expired.
Right there with you.
I'm
He
done.
has not played well.
He hasn't. And, I give him a lot of credit for doing what he did for a number of years. He's had a lot of injuries. He's just, gotten beaten up. To me, he doesn't fit anymore. The line looked better last week, much better last week, against a much better Vikings defense.
You know why it looked better? You had a guard who was playing better. And the only reason he didn't play this week is Ted Larson got injured in that game. So he was unable to play this week. And I give Kyle Long credit for stepping in, but it wasn't just Kyle Long.
No, it wasn't.
Charles Leno had a terrible game.
I'm pretty sure he leads the league in penalties right now among linemen.
Do you remember the guy from the Broncos? The guy with five holding calls in one game against the Bears.
Oh, okay, that guy, yeah.
Yeah, Garrett Bowles.
Garrett Bowles, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? Leno has entirely too many penalties, gave up too much pressure, and it was against an awful defensive line. They couldn't open any holes to run the ball.
Nope.
They're not giving adequate time. And
Chase Daniels is a statue back there.
He is. He's a statue.
He can't move.
And all the people that were like, Chase Daniels should be the starting quarterback over Mitch Trubisky in this Super Bowl window, you got your comeuppance. Because
now we're getting Tyler Bray. It's just one thing after another.
No, Mitch Trubisky is far and away the best quarterback in this Bears roster, hands down.
Yes.
Does he know the offense as good as Chase Daniel? No, that's clear. But
it's an issue.
It is an issue. If you could take Chase Daniel's understanding of this offense and put it in Mitch Trubisky, you would have a very, very good quarterback. Mitch makes better throws. Mitch has better mobility and a better sense in the pocket of when pressure is coming and a better ability to be able to get away from that pressure.
Look, Chase Daniels, Chase Daniel, I keep on calling him Daniels. I can't do that.
It's Chicago. We put the S on everything.
Oh, yeah. Chase Daniels goes to the Jewels.
And then stops off at the White Castles on the way home.
Oh, gets those sliders from the White Castles and eats them in his front room.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, you saw a lot of those ridiculous catches from the wide receivers today. And for a fact that if they didn't have the great play from Allen Robinson, just overall in this game, you wouldn't have put up the 21 that you did.
I can't remember that one real deep pass that Daniel threw. I can't remember if it was Miller or Robinson that caught it. But
I think that was Miller.
I think it was Miller too. I was so angry I didn't take any notes, but it was.
I didn't either. It's okay.
I went to my buddy's house for the game, and there was another guy there that just was like, "Man, that was a great throw." No, it wasn't. That was not only was that a bad throw, but it was an even worse decision to throw that ball, and he got bailed out by Miller's absolute amazing catch because that wasn't a catch that was plucked from the jaws of an interception. When they do those next gen stats of what the catch probability of that is, I bet it's in the single digit percentages of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was a bad decision to throw that ball, and it was a poorly thrown ball. But they got bailed out. And then you had two other just awful throws. One, the first interception, how do you miss the middle linebacker sitting in the soft zone, just parked? And even if that guy wasn't there, the throw was not going to be completed because it was a tight window for the receiver in there anyway. He was closely covered. And then the other one was listening to the post-game interview, it seems like Matt Nagy hinted that it was Miller that ran the wrong route. But even so, there were 3 defenders right there. Why would you throw into triple coverage?
I was yelling at the top of my lungs, who are you throwing to? Like, and then I just kind of let out gibberish because my brain couldn't process the whole thing. There wasn't, I mean, yeah, okay, so he runs the wrong route, but there wasn't a Bear even within like 15 yards of that throw. It was all Raiders.
Yeah, even if there was a receiver there, why are you throwing into triple coverage? If there's 3 guys on Miller, then guess what? There's either 1 guy or no guys on Robinson.
And the thing is, you didn't have to do that. You still had some time. You still had several timeouts.
It was mind melting. And, I know everybody wants to blame the guy ran into the kicker. And you know what? That was probably the straw that broke the camel's back, because if he doesn't do that, the Bears very likely win the game.
Yeah.
But to blame him for that loss? No, this was a team effort.
Oh, absolutely.
Matt Nagy's play calling in the first half was atrocious. The team as a whole was not ready to play. The defensive line was just getting manhandled by the offensive line for the Raiders. Poor tackling.
Tackling was awful.
Guys not being in position, the defensive backs. The linebackers in the first half, both Danny Trevathan and Roquan Smith played terribly. The second half, Danny Trevathan played pretty well. Roquan Smith still did not play well. I actually was tweeting out this, going into the second half, I thought they should put Nick Kwiatkowski in because of how well he played last week and how bad Roquan Smith was playing this week. We thought they needed the speed of Roquan Smith for this game, but no, I think they needed the physicality of Nick Kwiatkowski.
Yeah, and especially this matchup. It really hurt because the whole game, you couldn't get any pressure on him. And you knew that Derek Carr was going to get rid of the ball fast. But even when he didn't get rid of the ball fast, he had all the time in the world to throw. And I know that the offensive line of the Raiders is pretty good. And you know what? The Raiders may not be as bad as we thought they were. I'm not saying they're a playoff team, but they have definitely surprised me on how well they've played overall. They're above 500 after week 5. They had a really nice win against the Colts last week, but still, you did, the point I'm trying to make is you did so much wrong in this game. You played so poorly through most of this game, and yet you were still in position to win, and you still gave it away.
Right. And, think about what should have been, they should have scored. The Raiders should have scored on that opening drive, and it was some boneheaded plays that set them backwards.
It was Richie Incognito being Richie Incognito.
Right. And, so you got a penalty moved you out of field goal range. You should have been in field goal range. And then you should have had another touchdown that an amazing peanut punch by Sherrick McManus saved it from being a touchdown. So honestly in all reality, instead of giving up 24 points, it should have been 34 points. Should have been 34-21.
Right. And if you just look based on the way the Bears played the game, you just flat out say, no, they didn't deserve to win. But the reality was you were still in position to win. And that's what sucks.
Because you're the better team.
Right.
When you're the better team, you should still be in the game that you don't belong in. And that was what happened. Is one huge play where the Bears recovered a fumble, swung the momentum, and the Bears came roaring back, took the lead after being down 17-0 in half, and they reverted back to their first half play. The offense couldn't move the ball. The defense couldn't tackle and was giving up running plays in big chunks. And guess what? The big part of this defense is if you absolutely shut down their run and force them into 3rd and longs and let your pass rushers go after the quarterback, that is their key to success. If you're able to establish the run, which is exactly what Oakland did, they established the run and they set up 3rd and shorts where they were easily converting running plays on 3rd down. And it negated everything the Bears wanted to do on defense. Let the Raiders dictate how the game was played.
Yeah. And the Raiders coached exactly how to beat the Bears. They took advantage of everything. If you really look at it, the Bears only played better in 1 quarter.
Right? 4th quarter was better. The first 2 quarters were the Raiders were better, and the 4th quarter the Raiders were better.
Mm-hmm.
It was a absolutely dominating 3rd quarter by the Bears, but
that was the only quarter they scored in. Just keep in mind.
So yeah, and my buddy was like, the Bears are going to get down here and kick a field goal, and I was like, you know what? Here's my concerns. Number one is, do you want to go down to a spot where you have an injured kicker coming to kick a game-winning kick? No, because he injured himself again or re-aggravated the injury during this game. He was in pain. So do you want to have him kick a field goal? No, you're going to try to get a touchdown. Plus, you had 3 quarters of not being able to stop the Oakland offense. And do you want to go into overtime with them? No. You wanted to end that, and Chase Daniel just screwed the pooch. And honestly, I'm going to put this out there. Is Mitch playing well? No. And I'm not taking full responsibility away from Mitch. Matt Nagy's offense is not functioning properly right now.
No, it's not. Your quarterback's not playing well. Your offensive line is not playing well. That's a recipe for disaster. The only unit that's playing well offensively is the wide receivers. That's right. It.
The running backs have no shot. They have no openings. If I would have loved to have seen Tariq Cohen and David Montgomery with the holes that Oakland was opening up for their running back.
Oh, could you imagine? It
would have been phenomenal. So I think it starts with the play calling and the preparation, and the offensive line needs to play better. And I, honest to God, think that when they come out of this bye week, that they should flip-flop their left guard and their center, and they should put Whitehair back at center, and they should put Daniels at left guard. I think that will make things a little better, and hopefully Ted Larson comes back and you can put him back at right guard. And I think that is your best 5 offensive linemen. And if it's not, if Ted Larson is not healthy to play, I think you need to go out and figure out something, because Kyle Long is not playing well and he's not healthy, and you can't go into a tough part of your schedule barely being over 500 and having a poor offensive line and struggling to score points.
Yeah, and you don't know what your quarterback situation is going to be like in 2 weeks either. We don't know.
No. I mean, Mitch could be back. It could be Chase Daniel. It could be Tyler Bray. We don't know.
No, we don't. You know what's funny is that this game, if last year's Miami game and last year's Giants game made Whoopi and had a baby, this is what you would have gotten today. Because so much of what you saw in both those games is what you saw today. Poor tackling, bad defense, giving up big plays, subpar play from a quarterback in big spots. You saw that all today.
Yeah, and what was even worse is your best run defender just had an absolutely ugly elbow injury.
Yeah.
Did you see the stills?
I looked away. I couldn't look at him.
I saw, and that elbow just is. There's no way you could tell me that it wasn't a dislocation. I saw that and I immediately said he's out 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep.
And they listed him as questionable to come back.
Yes, they did.
I'm like, what the hell? I saw that elbow there. How do you play with no elbow? It was unreal. Like, they should have been out, and he's out 4 to 6 weeks. Absolutely, no question about it. And he was acting like, he was clearly in pain, but he just like pointed at it like, yeah, this elbow's not right, and it's all like, well, I can't even. It looked like abstract Lego putting together. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was awkward. So, hopefully we can have him back. And I feel bad because he really put in the work to get back to play this week after he missed last week. And I think that would have helped. But, if one guy's down, and I think the most frustrating part of this game for me was what happens anytime a Chicago team plays against somebody that they let go.
They own them.
We had this prime opportunity for Khalil Mack to play against the team that traded him away, the team that drafted him but traded him away, and come through with multiple sacks and a forced fumble and just change the dynamic of this game. And he really didn't do anything. Part of it was they ran away from him and they double teamed him and they did short passes. He was getting the ball out in like 2 seconds. It's not enough time for a defensive line to get there. And they negated him. They absolutely negated Khalil Mack. And
yeah,
it was so frustrating.
Could you imagine? Do you remember after 2012, there was the rumor that Brian Urlacher was going to sign with the Vikings?
Yeah.
If that happened, I guarantee you, when the Bears went up to Minnesota at the old Dome, Brian Urlacher would have sacked Jay Cutler 4 times and stripped him twice.
You mean like how Jordan Howard is going to play against the Bears and run for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns?
Oh, Jordan Howard is going to have a field day.
He's going to break a tackle to score a touchdown. He's going to have a receiving touchdown.
It'll be like some ridiculous catch, too. It'll be like him jumping back and reaching his hands full extension just by the tips of his fingers,
he's gonna
pulling it in. After Alshon Jeffrey makes a 50-yard catch.
He's gonna have like an Odell Beckham one-handed catch, arched back, and diving on the goal line. It's never fails. Kickers don't miss against the Bears, and ex-Bears just own the Bears, and it's frustrating. And why can't it happen the other way?
Wasn't it Cedric Benson who had a field day against the Bears when he was on the Bengals that one year?
He did.
Mm-hmm.
Rest in peace, Cedric.
Yep. Rest in peace. Yeah. Oh, look at Robbie Gould single-handedly beat the Bears in 2017.
It never fails. It doesn't fail. It could be somebody that played for the Bears for like 5 minutes. Like, they went to training camp with the Bears, and then they let him go, and then he comes back and is like a superstar.
Chris frickin' Conti pick-sixing Jay Cutler.
Yeah, there we go. It's all day with this stuff. It doesn't fail. It's so infuriating.
Oh my gosh. I could go on and on. I can't really think of any other examples off the top of my head, but I'm sure I could. Wait, was it Kyle Orton who threw that Hail Mary that ended up being the only touchdown that beat the Bears in 2011?
It's possible. I have to go back and look at that one.
Do you remember do you know that game I'm talking about though?
Was
In
it
2011.
When he played for the Cowboys?
No, it was against the Chiefs at Soldier Field, and the Bears lost like 10-3. And the only touchdown was a Hail Mary before halftime.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, it was in 2011 when, you know, everyone and their mother got hurt.
Yeah. It's infuriating. So you have, you know, a major cog for your defense injured. The defense as a whole played bad. And who knows what the hell happened with Roquan Smith, why he didn't play last week. It's personal.
Yeah, that's all.
It's personal.
Yeah.
You know, the rumor mills went crazy with that one.
Yes, they did. They did.
He was drunk driving, and then the police confirmed that, you know, he wasn't involved in the accident they were talking about. So kudos to, that's one thing. Kudos to Matt Nagy's regime there. They are able to keep a tight lip.
Yes, they were. I even heard a rumor. This was really crazy. I heard a rumor that like he was diagnosed with like HIV or something. But
Gee.
yeah, that it sounds just like someone just said it.
Yeah, you know what? And not for nothing, in my non-sports world, I'm a medical professional, and HIV is not the same diagnosis that it was when Magic Johnson was diagnosed.
Right.
It is now categorized as a chronic health condition because the drugs are so good that they suppress it and you just live a normal life. So people that have HIV now, they take their medication and they're not dying from complications from HIV or AIDS. They're dying from the same things that we're dying from: heart disease, cancer. You know, it just like regular, like their statistics for how they die are not that much different than non-HIV patients. So just the 2 cents. But I don't know what happened with Roquan Smith, and I don't know if that impacted how he played today, but he didn't play a good game.
No, he didn't. And, you know, his personal well-being is important. But, you know, even if Roquan Smith didn't have a good game today, you look at the rest of the unit and they all just had crappy days. Really, really crappy days. It's...
And I, honest to goodness, thought the Bears were going to come and pull his miracle, and you had, you know, some big throws that were made with great catches. They came back. They had the kick return or the punt return by Tariq Cohen that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, man, are the Bears going to pull out this, you know, a second half miracle here? And they took the lead, and they forced a punt. And you're like, all right, I think there's like 5-something minutes left here, and the Bears will have the ball, and the Raiders have like one timeout left. So the Bears can really, really run this clock out and take the victory, you know, in a game that they didn't deserve. And the penalty, and then it was still 4th and 1, and everybody and their mother, except for the Bears defensive line, knew that Chucky was going to fake punt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
How in the world were the Bears not ready for that?
I don't know.
It was infuriating, and they got it. And I thought at first he fumbled, and it was clear in the replay that his elbow hit before he fumbled. And once that happened, I went, this game's over. They're going to march down the field and score touchdowns.
I said the same thing. I said, here come the Raiders marching right down the field.
Yep, and they did. They marched down the field and just dominant fashion.
Yep.
They didn't need any big flashy plays. They just came down there and steamrolled the Bears defense. And that was frustrating.
It was like that guard in Austin Powers when they're on the steamroll. No! And it's slowly coming. I mean, that's basically what today's game was like.
Right. And you know what? If the Bears are having trouble stopping the run, like if this is what we can expect going forward, I don't want to see what's going to happen when they face Alvin Kamara, who is actually a very, very good running back.
I mean, they destroyed Dalvin Cook the week before. I think it's still a very good run defense. They just had a horrible game. They just weren't prepared.
And honestly, I mean, the loss hurts. The loss going into the bye is worse because now you're going to have all of these negative Nancy hosts on the talk radio shows, especially like a David Haw, who can't wait for the Bears to do something bad so he can just rag. And they're just going to rag for 2 weeks. And it's going to be, before Mitch Trubisky, I heard it was, Mitch Trubisky can't play. You got to go with your backup quarterback. And now the backup quarterback stinks. The Bears are just an awful team. Ugh. And I'm not going to be able to listen to sports radio until after the next game. I don't have it in me to just hear people rag on the Bears for 2 straight weeks and just
well, it's going to be ragging on the Bears, talking about this mess of a Bulls team, and that's about it because they don't like to talk about hockey. And baseball for Chicago has ended. It's the beginning of the off season, so you're not going to have much to talk about there. So yeah, that's what it's going to be.
It's rough. It's going to be rough. And David Haw is he's just licking his lips right now. Oh man, I can't wait till tomorrow so I can rag on the Bears.
Yeah.
Oh God. So I mean, honestly, they need to do some soul searching here because they're coming up on the tough part of their schedule and they need to figure out how to effectively run the football, and they can't do it now. And I think the way to do it is how the Raiders did it today is, you can't just plow everything inside. You can't just run to the outside, but like some of those, the running plays that the Raiders were running, I think were really effective. And the Bears need to figure it out. They got 2 weeks to figure out how to run the football, how to protect the quarterback.
Yep. Simple as that. You know what today would have been a great day for, though?
A victory?
Well, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I can't really top that, but a loss like this would have been a great Doug and OB post-game show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could just, and also I can just hear Mongo McMichael just ranting and raving, and I just don't have it in me to listen to it because they take valid points and then they extrapolate them so far, and you're just like, all right, give it a rest. Give it a rest. I don't want to focus on the loss. I don't want to blow everything out of proportion. The Bears defense is still really good. They just had a bad game. They're going to be able to stop other teams' runs. They're going to be able to get to the quarterback. This isn't a blueprint to beat them because you know what? The Vikings, they said before, Vic Fangio created the blueprint for how to beat the Bears. And you know what? If that's the case, then why did they thrash the Vikings?
Right.
It's the Bears will have to go in, regroup, adjust, come out ready to play against the Saints. And hope.
Doug, I gotta tell you, they better run the damn football or else they ain't winning anything.
That was amazing. I'm gonna cut that out and I'm gonna put it as a soundbite. And just
God damn it, Doug! It was funny. It was like maybe a week or two ago. It was a slower Friday at work. So I had my headphones in and I pulled up YouTube and I just pulled up the best of Doug and OB post game and just listened and had a good time. It was great.
Oh, good old Doug Buffone.
May he rest in peace. I can't believe he's been gone several years now. And he did it to the end. He did it right to the end.
True story. Doug Buffone followed me on Twitter.
Really?
I think he thought I was Chuck Swerski. So he started following me, and then he passed away, and so nobody changed it. So for as long as that Twitter account exists, it will say it follows me. Good old.
I'm following this guy right here. Damn it, dog! That's not Chuck.
Well, do you remember who was the guy that pitched for the Marlins that was in the Cubs system? Oh my God! Back when they were good, was it Dontrell Willis?
Well, I know. You're probably thinking of Dontrell Willis. One of the bigger disappointments. I mean, Dontrell Willis had really good stuff. He just never stayed healthy. I think that's who you're thinking of. D-Train?
Yeah, was it? I think it was Dontrell Willis. So Dontrell Willis, after he retired, a friend of mine's brother made a Dontrell Willis Twitter account and just started tweeting to like all these former teammates. I was like, oh, hey man, how's it going? And then they started following him, and then he used those follows and he got a blue check mark.
Really?
And he ended up, then all these professional athletes started following him, and then he was just having, DMs with professional athletes that thought he was Dontrell Willis. He never did anything malicious, but he was like, this is awesome. He's like, I'm chatting with, this guy and this guy, and
that's incredible.
I know, it was amazing. Well, I heard the story about this, and I was like, that's funny, because it eventually came to light. And my buddy goes, that was my brother.
No.
Are you kidding me? The same buddy and his brother once texted me one night, and they were like, hey, we're coming home from a wedding. Look who we're giving a ride to. And it was Ronnie Woo Woo. And he was in the Cubs uniform. How does that happen? How do you end up with Ronnie Woo Woo?
Did he have his new teeth yet?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Ronnie Woo Woo.
Ronnie Woo Woo.
The guy was doing it when my dad was a kid.
He's been doing it a long time.
My dad is like 60, and when my dad was a kid, he saw him do it. But he hasn't wooed in years, because I'm pretty sure his voice box is destroyed.
I can't tell you the last time I've seen Ronnie Woo Woo.
I mean, I've seen him walking around Wrigley, but I haven't heard him woo in a long time.
Ronnie Woo Woo was about to turn 78 years old.
Wow.
Halloween is his birthday, which isn't the most fitting thing ever.
Seriously. He's a caricature of himself.
He really is.
I don't think he's wooed since the original bleachers from 1937 were torn down in 2005.
Yeah, Ronnie Woo Woo. But going back to the Bears, I'm not going to make this into a big thing because we're going to get Mitch healthy. The defense is going to right the ship. A good defense, you can't hold them down. It sucks, the injury to Akeem Hicks. I'm not the doctor and I didn't take a close look at it, but I think he'll be back 4 to 6 weeks. So, we'll still have half of the season left with him. It's can they fix this offensive line on the fly? And I think I have given two things that can at least buoy it, but they've got to right that ship and be able to run the ball. Because if they can't run the ball, it's going to be a long season. If they can get it to where they can at least run it mediocre, you're going to see better play by Mitch. Because if you can start running the ball, you're going to get better pressure or better pass protection for Mitch when he comes back, hopefully next game. And you're going to see the offense work better when you have third and shorts and your quarterback has time to throw the ball.
Right, and I know it's a passer's game in this day and age, but you still need to run the dang football. You really do.
Absolutely. I mean, you look, you're still having success. I don't have the Saints lost since Drew Brees went down.
I don't think so.
And they got Teddy Bridgewater, who's terrible at quarterback. But you know what? He looks good because the offensive line is protecting him. Their head coach is putting him in a good position to pass, and they're relying on the running game.
Sean Payton's a dang good head coach, man.
He really is. I mean, Bill Belichick is just an all-time great coach, but man, Sean Payton is up there.
He's been the best coach in the NFC for quite some time now. I mean, he really has been.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got an era of three really good head coaches with Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and Bill Belichick. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing because those other two guys are really good, and Bill Belichick's got, how many rings?
6.
The 6 with the Patriots. He won with the Giants too. Crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, it's just a complete tale of two games. We were on a high of highs after just dominating the Vikings, and then turn around and poop the bed with this Raiders game. At least it's a road game and not a home game.
Yeah, that would have been worse.
You losing a home game, have like that. It sucks that if I was a player, I would absolutely hate the London trip.
Me too.
You're traveling that far, the time zone change, and then forcing you into bye week, and then a team that's their home game. So it's not a real home field advantage. You're playing.
No, there were definitely more Bears fans there. That's for sure.
Yeah, Sansa Stark came out in a Bears jersey.
Yeah.
So I'm annoyed, but everybody, we are going to be broadcasting the Saints game for Hot Mic. So definitely make sure you download the Hot Mic. Hopefully by then it's in the Android store, but right now it's in the Apple store. Use our code capital HOP 23 or capital PATT 23 to download it, and then check out our stream. Our friend Big Dave also has a show. So it's a lot of good stuff. You can, flip between different broadcasts and not have to listen to Mark Schlereth or whoever the garbage is that they're spoon feeding you on Fox. We're better than that.
There will be one play during our next game that we call. One play that will feature Ed Obradovich. Good.
And we will discuss our chip preferences. It will be, and we will not have any mercy for Cool Ranch Doritos.
No, none.
No mercy.
You know what we should do is we should get ourselves a bag of spicy nacho, a bag of donkey chips, and we got to designate one more type of chip. Put it in some nice bowls. Maybe get some dips.
Dip. Maybe a spicy queso.
Ooh. I love a good chip dip.
Right. I do too.
You could do a lot with chip dip. Donkey chips and queso go wonderfully together.
Yeah, they do. Did I tell you the story is after you told me about donkey chips because I was not aware of them. And then I saw them and I was like, oh, wait, I've seen this bag before, but I've never tried them. Got the donkey chips, got the spicy queso, came home, was so excited to eat the spicy queso. The seal was broken on the spicy
I'm
queso.
so sorry.
And so like it was clearly must have been dented and then the seal popped.
Yeah.
And I was like, I sat there for 15 minutes going, should I eat it anyway? And I was like, what if I dented it? What if I dented it and it was only open for 15 minutes or however long it was from my cart to my house? It's like, what if I did it? Then it's okay. Then it's all right dip. And I was like, how do I know? It doesn't smell bad. Every scenario through my head. And I was like, but what is best case scenario? That I'm eating this delicious queso dip and I'm happy. What is worst case scenario? I have to go to the hospital and get my stomach pumped. And then I went, well, what are the pros and cons of each of those situations? I ultimately decided not to eat the spicy queso dip.
Yeah, because you could always go and just buy another one.
I know. I didn't really want to go back out. I was feeling lazy. I mean, as somebody that's about to eat a whole bag of donkey chips and a whole container of spicy nacho or spicy queso dip, I was not trying to be super ambitious and go back to the store.
Yeah, it's what's too bad is so you don't have a store anywhere near you, do you? I mean, like maybe not near you, but like more than a few blocks.
I have a store under a mile. I can walk there. I have a Jewel's that's under a mile.
Because I don't know if you noticed when you came to my house the other week, there was the 7-Eleven that's right by those train tracks there. Mm-hmm. That would have been really easy access to some queso dip.
Yeah, I felt like there's got to be a delivery service that could just go pick that up.
So, all you need is like a Tostitos queso dip, and you go to try to get a delivery service. Or instead, you could be really lazy, eat the queso dip, and all of a sudden you're on the ground convulsing.
And then the ambulance comes and gets me, and they're like, all right, we're going to bring you to the hospital. I'm like, can we swing by Jewel's and get a fresh jar?
Your face is literally green.
I get to the hospital. I'm trying to hook the IV up to spicy queso dip.
Oh man, that is a sad story, though.
It's sad, but it could have been just completely fixed with 10 minutes and the willingness to get back into my car.
Well, okay then. So for when we do this next game, we're gonna buy some donkey chips and we'll buy some queso, and we'll make sure that
seal is not broken.
Dip is sealed, not broken. There is no chance of you eating it and starting to convulse and spew like a freaking sprinkler. So we'll be extra careful with our queso dip and our donkey chips.
Yes, so this is what you have to look forward to on Hot Mic. Good stuff like
Swerski Sports, brought to you by Spicy Queso Dip and Donkey Chips.
Only exclusive on Hot Mic.
The hot is not only the mic, it's also the queso. And our sponsor was so nice to deliver it for us for only $25 extra.
This queso dip is all gone. I'm just sitting there licking the inside of the jar like a dog with a container of peanut butter.
It's like, dude, I didn't know you like queso that much.
Don't judge me. Don't judge me. My precious. My precious.
I'm waiting for you to analyze the plate, but you're still banging out that queso.
I'm like, yes. And you're like, the Bears didn't score. I'm like, I got one last lick of queso dip.
It's gonna be fun.
So yeah, that's what we have to look forward to. So looking forward is, we outline what the Bears need to do during this bye week. It would have been nice to have pull this victory out and then learn their lessons, but still got the victory. But, it is what it is. So hopefully they can clean everything up against the Saints, because I still think hopefully there's no Drew Brees still, which they're saying at the absolute earliest would be, I think, against the Bears coming back, but I don't think he'll be back.
Yeah. Especially if they're playing well.
Right. I don't think they need to rush. So hopefully that they can really manhandle Teddy Bridgewater and stop the run, and then
Play like you did against the Vikings.
right, and get back on the winning track, because you can't fall behind, because Green Bay is playing really well.
Yeah,
I last saw the score and they were up like 31-10, I think, against the Cowboys.
Cowboys almost came back, but
oh, really?
yeah, they made it like a one-score game, but they couldn't get the onside kick.
No. Yeah, well, and it still was a 10-point game. It ended up being 34-24.
Oh, okay. I just followed it on Twitter. I thought it was a one-score game, but I guess not.
So yeah. So should we talk baseball here?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm currently, as we're talking, I'm watching this Dodgers Nationals game 3, and Anibal Sanchez is pitching, and he's striking out a ton of guys. It's weird.
So I want to talk the White Sox first.
Yeah, me too.
So my buddy Gary, who's been on the show with us, he's a diehard White Sox fan, and he texted me the other day, and he was quite upset. And he's like, you guys are clearly both Cubs fans, and you're giving hell to the Cubs during the best period they've had in any of our lifetimes. And you're talking about how bright the White Sox future is. And, the reality is that the White Sox are not going to spend any money, and they're going to waste all of this young talent. So I want to talk about that. He brings up a good point. Is the White Sox have a ton of good young talent, but you can't win with just the young talent they have. They need to go out and get a frontline pitcher. They need to fill a few of the roster holes, because if you're going to come back and bring in just the roster that you had last year, you're not gonna compete for a World Series.
You know what the White Sox have to do, and there's frankly no excuse for it? They have to put all their chips on the table for Garrett Cole.
And they're not going to do it, because Garrett Cole is, especially after his last performance, is going to get over $200 million.
If you want my opinion, I think he's going to end up in Yankee pinstripes. That's how I see it.
Probably.
He's either going to go there like the Angels.
The Angels are going to go all in. But I don't know where he goes. I mean, he might stay in Houston and try to win more there.
That could happen. I mean, the way the White Sox would have to get Garrett Cole is to make him an offer he can't refuse financially. I mean, look, the White Sox, I think, have one of the brightest futures, and I'm saying this honestly. I mean, if you get Luis Robert, Madrigal, Moncada, Jimenez, if they all work out, that's probably going to be the best core in baseball. And I know I'm really, really stepping forward with that, but I just think they're going to absolutely destroy the league. With that being said, they have yet to do it because half those guys haven't played in the major leagues yet. And if you're trying to sell that you're trying to win to a free agent like Garrett Cole, it's probably going to be a bit more difficult because he obviously knows how good the Astros are playing on them. He knows how the Yankees are, and he knows that the Yankees would shell out a lot of money. And with the Angels, let's say they do land Joe Madden, and you have Mike Trout, and you figure, hey, if I could be an important cog and they're going to pay me a crap ton of money, I could be sold there too. My whole point is the White Sox have to sell themselves more than anybody else with their checkbook, and that is going to take a big, big check. But they have plenty of money to spend. That's the whole thing. They have plenty of it to spend.
But the thing is, they won't. And a quote came out. So he sent me this article where David Sampson, who was the former Marlins president, he held that position from 2002 until he was fired by Derek Jeter in 2017. And he made a podcast appearance and shared a story about a tip he got early on from Reinsdorf. Here's the best advice to you. Finish in second place every single year because your fans will say, wow, we've got a shot. We're in it. But there's always the carrot left. There's always one more step to take. So you're running a team just to placate the fans, not really putting everything in to win. And that's a really sad way to run the organization. If you look at the history of the biggest contracts any team or every single MLB team has put forward, the White Sox are one of only the few teams that is never given $100 million contract. It's Oakland.
The Marlins signed Giancarlo Stanton. The Rays?
With some looking, it's Oakland, the Indians, the Orioles, the Pirates, and the Royals, and the White Sox.
Well, some of those teams you listed, the Pirates, they're known for being pretty cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. The Royals are known for being cheap.
I mean, the Royals are in a very tiny, tiny market, but yeah, they don't spend a lot of money.
I mean, it's a bigger market than Oakland. It's a bigger market than San Francisco. I mean, those two are across the bay and they split it. It's got to be on par, I guess. But I mean, you look at some of these teams. The Tigers have a $250 million contract. The Twins have 184. Yankees 275. And the Rangers 252. And the White Sox biggest contract, Jose Abreu, 6 years, $68 million. And I mean, theoretically, once all the incentives are reached, Eloy Jimenez probably will be bigger. But I mean, they don't spend the money. And Jerry Reinsdorf is known for being loyal, but he's frugal. He spends the money for the Bulls, but the Bulls still make a huge profit because the NBA teams make money. The White Sox, he's in there to turn a profit.
Well, I mean, look, the Bulls they're a worldwide brand because of Michael Jordan. That's going to bring them that revenue.
And when did Jerry Reinsdorf buy the White Sox?
Early 80s?
Reinsdorf.
Late 70s, early 80s? That was after Bill Veeck, I believe.
He bought them in 1981 for $19 million.
There you go.
So he bought that team for $19 million. Do you know what they are currently valued at?
No.
$1.6 billion.
Mm-hmm.
$1.6 billion. So he basically got, for all intents and purposes of rounding, a $1.6 billion profit. On top of all of the profit that he's made year over year, just owning the team, it's from its value increase. And he does not want to put that money towards a team. So while I give all kinds of credit to Rick Hahn, he's done a fantastic job of building this team and using the old assets they had and flipping it and having it turn out and really having some amazing young talent. He is being absolutely handcuffed by ownership.
What I think is a shame is that they couldn't land any big free agents last year, aka Manny Machado or Bryce Harper, because all these guys are signing these extensions. So your pool of free agents is going to be a bit smaller. There are some guys on the market. I mean, we talked about Garrett Cole. He's by far the biggest guy. And then next up is Anthony Rendon, who, in my opinion, is going to be re-signed by the Nationals. But he may test free agency. He's going to demand a paycheck. I believe Steven Strasburg is going to be a free agent if he opts out, which may or may not happen. I believe I'd have to look at the details. I mean, you got Josh Donaldson, JD Martinez. Those are other big boppers on the market. So those are your big names right now. Those are your big ones. And I guess you could throw in Edwin Encarnacion, but he's older. He's a DH. He doesn't fit with the White Sox. It would be a total White Sox move to sign a 37, 38-year-old DH when you have several other DH-type players. But he truly doesn't fit there like you would some of these other guys. I mean, JD Martinez, I would imagine that they would want to go in on him.
But are they? Are they going to, or are they going to sign a second tier free agent and then trot out their young guys that are not making any money, and then just put a good enough team that together?
See, maybe it's because I'm a Cubs fan. I'm not a White Sox fan, so I don't have as much of a level of pessimism towards them. Just because I'm not a fan of them, I don't really have as much of a research connection kind of looking at their past, even though I have a pretty good idea of it. But I feel like they are desperate for a winning season, and they're going to work harder to get free agents. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like, especially with this news coming out and Reinsdorf denying it, I think they may say, let's prove them wrong. Let's go out and shell out money. So I think the opposite. I think they are going to spend money.
Well, I mean, we'll see. Historically does not speak to that. I mean, when your biggest contract in the history of your franchise is $68 million, which is like, 2 years of the next Mookie Betts contract. Like you're not in the same league. Do you know what their payroll? I'm on Baseball Reference. Do you know what their payroll is for next year? Currently,
less than $20 million.
$15.33 million.
Yu Darvish alone is going to be making $22 million next year.
And I mean, they have some guys that are arbitration eligible and pre-arbitration eligible,
obviously.
But I mean, here's what guys are making. Eloy Jimenez next year will make $2.33 million. Ivan Nova is a free agent. Tim Anderson will be making $4 million. The man who won the batting title for the American League will be making $4 million, not on a rookie contract, on a contract. He signed a 6-year, $25 million contract.
I forgot about that.
Kelvin Herrera will be making $8.5 million.
I forgot he was a thing.
Jose Abreu is going to be a free agent, so they will probably re-sign him. Wellington Castillo is, they're on the hook for him for $500,000. Alex Colomé will be an arbitration. Yomer Sanchez is up for arbitration. Carlos Rodon will be up for arbitration. John Jay is a free agent. James McCann made $2.5 million this year, and he's up for arbitration. Lurie Garcia's arbitration, he made $1.55. Reynaldo Lopez made $580,000 last year. Yohan Moncada made $575,000 last year. Lucas Giolito made $573,000 last year. Dylan Covey, garbage. But all these guys are less than $1 million. And so the Baseball Reference is expecting them after arbitration and things to be about $50 million, their payroll.
That's pennies.
Yeah. When you've already made probably all said and done close to $2 billion from this team, and you're not willing to invest in them winning when you have all these young players. And I know he's being pessimistic to a large degree, but my friend Gary said, we're going to waste all these young players, and at some point when it's coming close to time to pay them, we're just going to flip them away and trade them for other young, prospects and restart the rebuild. And I feel bad. That's a sad place to be if your team is just in a constant flux of rebuilding and just different stages of rebuilding. Now you're at the point where, man, you're excited about it and you're ready to win, and your team doesn't do anything to help out. And then you watch them flounder and then flip it away to have the beginning of the rebuild again. And I hope that doesn't happen. I really hope that doesn't happen, because this team has so much talent. If you put the money forward and you go out and get a Garrett Cole to go in here, and you go out and get Nick Castellanos to put in that outfield with Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert.
I'd rather he stay on the north side.
I would too, but I'm just saying, if you're the White Sox, why wouldn't you go after him? Those two guys could absolutely change the outlook of this franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it.
I mean, if you bring in Castellanos and you bring up Luis Robert, you have potentially one of the best outfields in baseball.
Hitting wise, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, the White Sox, they got to put their money where their mouth is, because, this is the opportunity to prove that article is full of shit. And you have all the money in the world to throw at them, because you could probably support $160 million payroll. So that would put you at $100 million, not total to spend. Not like, oh, I have $100 million to spend. I have $100 million just in this year. I could give out $100 million in 1-year contracts and still meet your budget for payroll. And are they going to do it? Are they going to put the money where the mouth is? Because they clearly didn't do it last year. And granted, it probably was all for the best of not bringing in, Bryce Harper probably would have been a better option, because he would have filled that hole that you didn't have, or that you have still in the outfield. But Manny Machado, probably better off not bringing him in. But you ended up going, quote, all in on him, and you were significantly behind, and you were trying to do some convoluted math of why your contract was better. Clearly it was not.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be a bit more optimistic, and I'm going to say they are going to spend money to prove people wrong. That's my take.
I hope so. I really hope so. I hope for all White Sox fans' sake, for the city of Chicago's sake, for my friend Gary's sake, I really do hope they go out and bring in some really good quality players to bolster that. Do they try to trade some of the young farm system and go after Mookie Betts?
Boy, that would take quite a trade.
Because is he in the long-term plans for the Red Sox? They're already trying to cut payroll.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way to cut payroll and sign Mookie Betts to a long-term contract.
No, there's not.
Those are mutually exclusive.
They could give Chris Sale back to the White Sox.
Do they want him though?
Hmm.
He didn't have a good year.
No, and I think he's going to bounce back. I do, but he's not old, but he's getting older, and he's got a lot of miles on that arm, and he has a funky delivery. So,
and no matter how much money he makes, he's never going to be able to cut those white trash roots.
You mean cutting of jerseys?
He is a redneck.
That is still one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
Is it? It's publicly more weird, but I think it was worse when he went to the opposing team's clubhouse and tried to fight them all.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I mean, he is just an odd bird.
Yeah, he is kind of a goof.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's off season is coming up pretty quick, and will they be spenders of money? And that remains to be seen. And you hope that. I mean, it depends on your level of optimism or pessimism
Mm-hmm.
of how last year transpired. But I could see people leaning either direction. Like, oh, hey, they went and they offered the biggest, by far and away, the biggest contract they've ever offered to a player last year. But then you could also look and be like, yeah, but then they cheaped out at the end.
Yeah.
They cheaped out over $50 million.
Yeah, and they legit thought they had him.
So we'll see, because they're absolutely going to have to overpay to get somebody.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. You have to overpay.
Because you don't have the luxury of the marquee name. You're not even facts are facts. You're not the biggest team in the city. You're the second fiddle. And that's not meant to be derogatory. Just that's based on the number of the attendance, the number, who takes precedence in when they talk about you on the radio or on TV. When you look at the the ratings on television, it's as far as baseball, this is a Cubs town. So you're going to go into a situation where you're on the second fiddle team, and it's not a major spending powerhouse like the Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs. So yeah, they're going to have to overspend to get them, and probably by a significant amount. So if you want Garrett Cole, you think that's the guy that's going to bring it to you, bring you, to the next level and make that giant leap to the playoffs, kind of like what John Lester did for the Cubs. You need to pony up, and you're going to pony up a lot of money. And those 33 swings and misses that he had last night, you're paying for each one of those.
Yeah. He's on another world right now, that guy.
And I would not want to be in a position where you sort of have to sign him, because he's really talented, but he's also not young.
No. I mean, he's going to be 30, I think.
Garrett Cole age. He's going to be 30 next season. So not young, but not old. But if he's going to go, you're going to have to give him like a John Lester kind of contract where the last year or two of that deal, you're paying for the first few years.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? That's what you got to do.
Mm-hmm. So, should we wrap this up? Talk Cubs?
Yeah.
Man, the Cubs went out with a whimper.
It's putting it lightly.
I mean, they had at one point where they were like 2 games out of first place. They had the second wild card in their grasp, and they shit the bed. I don't know how else to talk about that, but they did. It was bad play, and would they lose like 8 in a row, 9 in a row?
Yeah, that 4-game sweep at Wrigley Field was probably one of the most horrific experiences the Cubs have had at Wrigley Field in a very long time.
And they officially lost out, didn't make the playoffs. And, you had Theo Epstein being honest about, where the Cubs are, decided to walk away from Joe Madden and go a different direction, which is it all Joe's fault? No, but clearly you're clearly not going to change the core of this team. So if the core of this team is not performing to the level, and you can say, hey, listen, statistics, Chris Bryant had great individual statistics this year. Javi Baez had really good statistics this year. But when it boils down is the sum of those parts was not as good as the individual components. Like you need to be better than the sum of your total or your individual parts, and that was not the case. Those performances didn't translate into wins on the field.
No, because your bullpen was bad through a lot of the season. You lacked fundamentals like nobody's business. You were one of the worst teams in terms of errors, outs on the bases made. That right there contributed to a number of losses, and your depth was terrible.
Right. And you know what? Part of those is coaching.
Yes, it is.
And so Joe Madden's message was not taking effect. And maybe part of it was he's a lame duck manager. And there's a lot of talk about how that can impact things, but you still have to go out in there and perform. And if you wanted Joe to keep his job and you're a player, you know what? There's an easy way to do it. Win. If you go out there and you win and you put it all on the field and you win and you make a good performance by going to at least the National League Championship Series, or better yet, World Series, and win it, Joe, you're a hard sell to get rid of Joe at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't. You followed it up by not making the playoffs. You made that decision. If you're a player and you did not want Joe to go, you made that decision very easy for the front office.
Yeah, to me, the writing was on the wall. It was pretty obvious the writing was on the wall, especially towards the end. It sucks it had to end that way, but Chicago has a history. Oh, excuse me. Has a history of seeing their greatest coaches go out in yucky situations.
Right, it's true. And I don't have ill feelings towards Joe. Joe brought us a World Series. But this was a year where it was very clear with him going in with no contract into this season. It was very clear that he needed to win if he was going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Flat out.
Yeah.
And this team did not come ready to play. This team, the number of strikeouts, the inability to knock runners in with less than 2 outs, in scoring position, abysmal. Their defensive prowess, bad. Base running, boneheaded base running plays, just they just were. It was a subpar year in pretty much every category. And to top it off, is the bullpen was bad. So that one you can throw on Jed and Theo.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what is Javi Baez is a Gold Glove shortstop. You've got a Gold Glove first baseman. You've got guys that can field, and you've got a Gold Glove right fielder. You didn't play well. You defensively didn't play well. You can't put that on the general manager.
No, that's coaching, that's execution. Though there is one aspect that I absolutely put on the general manager, and that was their decision to bring Addison Russell back, which was a mistake from the get-go. And look what he did. Look what he did in his final few months as a Chicago Cub, making a game-costly error and saying it was probably a good thing he made that mistake, said he was still learning even though he's been in the big league since 2015. That you put on the front office. However, yeah, you look at a bunch of the other guys. That's just lack of execution. That can't happen. It cost you a number of games.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, is if you have over the last couple of years, how many hitting coaches have they gone through?
Let's see. I had Posey this year, Chili Davis last year, and the year before it was what was his name? Why am I blanking on it? 2017. Shoot. I'm blanking on his name.
No, I can't think of it either. But you've gone through how many hitting coaches now? And if they're all giving you a similar message and it's not being received, at some point, it stops being the coach's fault and starts being the player's fault.
They were terrible at making contact in situations they were supposed to.
Yeah. And you need if the message is not being heard, then that's on the player.
Yeah.
I was listening to an
John
interview
Maley.
the other day.
Sorry,
with
it was John Maley.
Yeah, John Maley. I was listening to an interview the other day with the Coom Dog, and he said a similar thing. He's like, there's a lot of young players on this team that don't want to hear the constructive criticism. They only want to hear the praise. They don't want to hear the constructive criticism, and that he has had conversations with, people in the front office that have said similar things, that these guys are not learning, or they're not doing the things they're being told to do because they've had success going up to that point, and now they're hitting struggles and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and they're not listening to what they're being told and taught, and they're continuing the struggles. And he didn't mention names, but I think we can take some serious guesses. Albert Almora, Ian Happ, Addison Russell.
Yeah.
David Bodie.
Addison Russell, that's just a whole mess on its own. But you look at Albert Almora, a yeesh. That was really bad this year. And you look at that situation, you think, well, if you would have just gotten Lorenzo Cain as a free agent, or if you would have traded for Christian Yelich, maybe you couldn't have traded for Christian Yelich because the Cubs didn't have what they wanted. But if you could have at least signed Lorenzo Cain, think about what a difference that would have been.
Absolutely.
But they put all their faith in Almora at the time.
And you know what? I thought we'd get a better Albert Almora.
Me too. I was fairly high on him.
So I don't know where you go from here. This is I think they're going to retool. I don't think you're going to see Theo Epstein come in here and try to just go, relearn some fundamentals and figure next year they'll hit reset and come back and play better. I don't think so. I think he's going to be very proactive, and I think we're going to see a trade.
Oh yeah, I think we will too. I definitely think we will. Who it's going to be, I don't really know. He's got.
Wilson Contreras.
You think so? Well,
I think that is the best, the most sense. I think I mean, here's the thing. Chris Bryant, how do you get the value that he's worth in a trade for a win now team?
it's tough.
If you're a rebuilding team, if he's a rebuilding team, probably you can get his value. If you're in a team that's just trying to retool, I don't know how you get the
Very
value.
different. It's very different. You gotta be darn sure you're getting what you're getting.
Unless unless you trade a great player for a great player that you're struggling with, and we brought up Mookie Betts before. What if you swap a Mookie Betts for a Chris Bryant?
I don't see that happening.
I don't either. I'm just throwing things out there. I don't know how
they got a big system. Do the Padres want to take a big leap? They got a big system.
Yeah, but do you trade him for prospects, or do you want ready players? And I think if you're trading, you better get probably major league ready players and controllable arms.
Probably. I mean, in this situation, yeah. I think maybe you'd want. I mean, their farm system is barren. Though I don't think trading Chris Bryant would just bring you just prospects. Like you said, I think they'd want some ready players, but maybe they'd be looking to get a ready player and a prospect. I don't know.
Because you have 2 more seasons of Chris Bryant before he's due a mega contract. And and is Scott Boras going to take him to free agency? Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
And I don't think, he may not, but I don't think he's signing 2 years left.
No. To me, I think it's pretty clear he's going to free agency. Maybe we're surprised, but I think he's going to free agency.
I mean, it's nice that we're starting to see some players sign extensions early. But Chris Bryant is making enough money where he doesn't need to do that.
Right.
He's made like 13 last year or 15. He'll make more than that the coming year after arbitration. So he's got plenty of money, especially knowing that big contract is coming. So what does he have to lose? Like a Mike Trout, just like, hey, I want to just get this done, get this out of the way, and be set for the rest of my life. Or you have a guy like Tim Anderson who's like, I'm not positive how this is going to turn out. Well, let me get the security of this big contract for me, and it end up being super team friendly. You're not going to get that. You're going to have to pay for every bit of Chris Bryant. And so Scott Boras, if you are trying to give a hometown discount, Scott Boras is not your agent.
God, no. He's the last guy who would give you a hometown discount. The last guy.
And I believe Nick Castellanos is also a Boras client.
Yes, he is.
So he's going to be looking for a big contract.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking at the Cubs payroll for next year, and you're over $200 million after your arbitration and such. You've got Jason Hayward. Jason Hayward's probably not opting out.
No, but I like Jason Hayward a lot. I know he's nowhere near what he's being paid, but I still like him a lot. With that being said, I would be perfectly okay if the Cubs tried to strike a deal with somebody just to clear some of that money away. Because while his defense is very valuable, and while he had a very productive season at the plate, that horrible slump brought his numbers down, but the past few years, he's either been average or slightly above average when it comes to hitting. I just wonder if you could find a team that could eat a chunk of that money. I don't think there'll be a lot of teams really willing to trade for somebody like that. He still has 4 years left on his deal, but I just can't. I'd be okay if they tried to kind of aggressively shop him, even if you don't really get anything in return, just to clear some money off the books. I'd be okay with that. And again, I like Jason Hayward, but I'd be okay if they at least tried to explore that idea. It may not work. There may not be a team saying, I really want Jason Hayward, but at least try.
Cole Hamels, $20 million comes off the books.
Yep.
John Lester, you get $7.5 million of less this year because they front loaded a lot of his contract. So his contract goes from 27.5 2019 to 20 million to 2020, and then 10 million. I think it's a team option.
It's a vesting option.
Is it a vesting? Okay, but it's 10 million in 2021. So,
and I don't think he's gonna be in a Cubs uniform in 2021.
I don't think so either. I think this is the last year, but you got him for 20 million, which is a lot. But you know what? You're still saving 7.5. Yu Darvish goes up a little bit. Goes up from 20 to 22. Kyle Hendricks jumps up from 7.4 to 12, part of that new contract.
Right.
Zobrist is done. So that's 12.5 off the books. Anthony Rizzo, I believe he is very team friendly. So according to Baseball Reference, he's going to make $2 million next year.
Really?
Yes.
That low?
Because he made 12.5 this year.
Right. That sounds right.
So, then he's due a new contract. So I wouldn't be surprised if they reworked something for him. Kimbrel's contract jumps up. He's going to be making 16 next year.
Right.
Chatwood, you're on the hook for 13 next year. About the same. You got, maybe that's $2 million if they don't pick up his option. That seems more right with Rizzo.
Yeah, I'm looking at Spot Trick now, and it says base salary is 14.5 next year. $2 million.
Oh yeah, here we go. And so it's saying the team option is 16.5, but they owe him 2 if they don't pick it up.
Correct.
Okay, there we go. So
yeah, that's
goes up a little bit. Yeah. Oh yeah. So the John Lester is 25 in 2021 if they pick up his option, but it's 10 million if they don't.
Well,
So
I'm pretty sure what looked like is John Lester is going to have to pitch like 400 innings between last year and next year, or 200 innings next year for that vesting option.
And I don't think he'll make that.
I don't think so either.
Quintana, they're going to pick up that option, so he'll be due 11.5, which is $1 million more than last year. Brandon Morrow, they are not going to pick up that option.
Nope, he's probably going to retire.
Yeah. Pedro Strop is a free agent. So, David Bodie gets a little bit of a bump up, but it's negligible. Steve Cishek comes off the books. Bryant goes into arbitration again. Kinsler's off the books at 5. You had $10 million. Nick Castellanos off the book, hopefully brought back. Derek Holland, you get that money off the books because they're not picking up that $7 million team option.
Thank God.
Javi Baez is due to arbitration. You're stuck with Daniel Descalso at 2.5 next year. Addison Russell going to arbitration. I think they just let him go. I don't know what the point of bringing him back is. Schwarber goes to arbitration. Jonathan Lucroy's contract comes off the books. David Phelps comes off the books. Xavier Cedeno off the books. Alex Wilson off the books. Wilson Contreras goes to arbitration. He's going to get a big raise.
Mm-hmm.
Albert Almora goes to arbitration. What's the point? Ian Happ goes to arbitration or pre-arbitration. Tony Kemp.
Include him in a trade. That's my opinion.
Tony Kemp, pre-arbitration. Victor Caratini, pre-arbitration.
They'll bring him back.
Yeah. Mark Zagunis, pre-arbitration. Kyle Ryan, pre-arbitration. So yeah, I mean they're looking at, without bringing anybody new in, still around $200 million. So they're going to have to. They still have another starting pitcher they got to bring in and figure out what they're going to do in that outfield.
There's a lot of holes to fill, and not an easy way to do it. They're going to have to get creative.
Yeah, they need to rebuild the bullpen, bring in another starting pitcher, bring in another outfielder, starting outfielder. So, yeah.
It's going to be an interesting offseason, to say the least.
To say the least. And, I mean...
They got to hire a manager.
Yeah, they got to hire a manager. Just not Joe Girardi.
Yeah, please no. I don't think they're going to go that direction. I really don't.
I hope not. I hope that just was out of respect that they brought him in.
I think so.
I mean, it might have been too just to kind of pick his brain.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it can't hurt to. It never hurts to bring in a guy for an interview.
I mean, I think here's the thing: is usually at this point they have the guy that they want. They have him in mind. They know who they want. They bring in a few other guys because it doesn't hurt. And then sometimes one of those guys surprises you and you dig a little deeper. But I think they have their leading candidate, and it's that person's job to lose.
I mean, that's how it goes oftentimes in these situations. I think we'll know fairly soon. I don't think this is going to be a long, drawn-out process because, I mean, you can, if as long as this person isn't on a current postseason team, they could hire these people whenever they want. Right.
Absolutely. And, you know, and it's especially easier than one of them is currently on a Cubs payroll, so at least one.
Right.
So they don't have to ask permission. They don't have to wait for anything. So I think, yeah, I really do think they know, and I think it's going to be a pretty. I think we'll see an announcement before the World Series.
I agree.
I wouldn't even be surprised if it was right before the start of the National League Championship Series. Wouldn't be shocked. So, prediction?
Who they're going to hire?
Yeah.
I think it's either going to be David Ross or Mark Loretta.
I agree. I think it's going to be David Ross.
I know David Ross sounds meatball-y, but
it does, but it also kind of goes with the way baseball has gone. Find somebody that is not that far removed. He has experience working with the front office. Historically, it's always good to have somebody if it's been a catcher. Just historically has worked.
Joe Madden was a
catcher. Joe Torre was a catcher. Mike Scioscia was a catcher.
Girardi was a catcher in his heyday when his style was more fitting.
Yeah, I mean, but if we're going to hire ex-Cubs catchers, though, to be, where's Damon Berryhill?
Oh, I was hoping for Giovanni Soto.
But, I mean...
They all have the munchies in the dugout when they're all smoking weed.
But, you know, David Ross has the respect already. He has that. He can walk in there, and those guys absolutely respect. He doesn't have to. There's no feeling out period. Um, he's been around plenty long enough to know how multiple different types of managers and multiple teams. He's not afraid to get into guys' faces if he doesn't agree. And this was actually something that the Coom Dog said too. Is he said John Lester needs somebody that can stand up to him and tell him no. And David Ross was that guy.
Together for all those years.
Yeah, because he's not afraid. He's not afraid to tell him no, you're wrong. No, do this.
David Ross, you go out there and catch for John Lester.
I don't think he's going to do that, but he's also going to be cost effective, going into that same mold of $1 million or less for a manager. And a lot of the decisions are going to come from the front office. He's already worked with them. They know how he works. I think he's the safe pick, but I also think he's probably the right pick, and he's also the meatball pick. So it's kind of a perfect storm of working out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like you have a nice bottle of wine next to a big plate of meatballs. You see the benefit in all of it. It's very different than the whole Ryan Sandberg situation. I mean, that was in a different era, even though that wasn't very long ago. Ryan Sandberg spent all those years in the minor leagues. If he was really valuable as a manager, he would have probably gotten a call sooner to be a manager. And clearly that didn't work out in Philadelphia. It's very different now. And the other thing is too, there is no real ideal perfect candidate. When Joe Madden became available, he was as ideal for the Cubs as you could imagine. There's not really that guy out right now, at least that we know of, because Joe Girardi to me is not the guy whatsoever. Neither would be like a Mark DeRosa. And Mark Loretta, I don't think Mark Loretta would be terrible. I don't think he'd be good either. I think he would just be a guy.
Yeah, that's exactly how I described him to somebody. I was like, he would be a guy. You would have the team would be probably a preseason favorite, is one of the division, to win the division or, compete for it. You'd go out there and you'd win. You'd probably win more games or as many or more games as this year. But I don't think he's doing anything special. Joe was special, but he had a shelf life, and I think he just hit that shelf life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. And, I'm going to remember Joe Madden forever as the greatest manager that most of us have ever seen for the Chicago Cubs, the guy that ended the 108-year curse, the guy that changed them from a losing culture to a winning culture, somebody who is unique, somebody whose just personality and brand is going to be stapled in Chicago for a very, very long time. But, I'm perfectly okay with moving on. I think it's time to.
I saw the greatest manager of all time for the Cubs, and his name was, rest in peace, Don Zimmer. I'm just kidding. I did love the Zim, but
I thought
he was lightning in a bottle one year.
Yeah, and I thought as you were saying that right there, you were just in a shower of marinara meatball sauce.
I did love Zimmer.
Everybody did.
He is like the closest you have to a manager to being Popeye.
That's true.
When he tried to fight Pedro.
Yep. And got decked.
Yeah. Just got flung down by his old man head.
Yep.
But he was ready to fight.
Yep.
At 100 years old.
And people really liked Don Zimmer too. It's just a very, very like, whoa type of moment.
I could not think of too many more worse choices, oil and water choices to work with Jed and Theo than Don Zimmer.
Oh God. God. Old school versus versus Don Zimmer.
Yeah, Don Zimmer old school versus, sabermetrics, and like the minute they told him to do something, he'd probably lose his shit, try to fight Theo, probably
He'd fight
win.
Theo, take like a long printout of like sabermetric sheets, just crumple it up and just either eat it or burn it.
He would be like the manager of the Indians from Major League. He'd probably like take the thing and piss on it right there.
When he pisses on Roger Dorn's contract.
I've got a contract. Let me see that.
What?
I've got these sabermetric advanced stats that show that you shouldn't pitch this guy today. Let me see it. Psst. What are you doing? That's what I think of your paper.
Zip. That'd be so true, though.
Oh my god. It would be fun to watch. That would be good. That would be good for the new marquee network to play when it's not games. Be like, oh, here's more outtakes of Don Zimmer fighting with Theo Epstein. I would watch that. I would just be like, my wife would be like, what are you doing? It's 2 a.m. Why are you up? And I'll be like, oh, I'm watching Don Zimmer pee on sabermetrics.
I'd pay to watch that.
I would. But I wanted to talk hockey, but I didn't see the game.
I didn't either. I was at work.
I was at work. I got home. I saw they lost, and
There's 81 games to go.
And they don't play again until like Thursday.
Yep. Isn't that their home opener?
I believe so. So we'll have more next week or next episode. So lots of
it'll be bye week next week, so it's not like we'll be talking much Bears.
Yeah. And so yeah, we have to start planning out our end of the decade shows.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I'd probably like to get to those November, December, just so we can kind of slowly break it down because, outside of like the Bears, all those other seasons are in the books, so we can look at that. There's a ton of stuff to look over.
Right. And I got a few names I'm thinking about for people. So if you have some names too, we could try to figure those out.
Well, I'd love to get Dave on here for sure.
I want to get Dave for basketball.
Yeah.
It would be nice to get your brother too. Your brother and Dave. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
So
I could talk to him for sure.
Yeah, I might, maybe Lester Wiltfong, who's a big Bears guy. He does a podcast called the T Formation, and he's the editor of Windy City Gridiron.
Mm-hmm.
I
could talk to the Cubs insiders for baseball. Yeah,
that would be good. And then I'll have to figure out who for hockey. But yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I'm excited about it for these episodes.
Me too.
So I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, the TuneIn app, Google Play, all these ways. Hit subscribe. Follow us on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Please share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow it. Thank you guys so much for listening, and download the Hot Mic app because we will be broadcasting the next Bears game. So that will be a blast. Interact with us. You can live tweet. We can, we'll be reading those things during the game. It's a lot of fun. It's way better than listening to Mark Schlereth or whoever they throw on the broadcast. So make sure you download that. And thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Pemberley Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go Bears.